Google Developer Student Clubs train hundreds of thousands of university student developers globally while having fun getting to know other students at their school. Google selects students with strong leadership skills from across the globe once a year to start a club on their campus. These leads believe knowledge is power and that technology can do extraordinary things for the world. They take on the responsibility to help students learn and empower each other to solve real problems around them. Students can participate in the annual Solution Challenge by Google developers to solve for one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Join us in building a global community for students in technology.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad to see a few faces here. Welcome to our first session of our Android Study Jams group series. My name's Angel. I'm from the University of Illinois, Chicago. This is our first episode in the series. We'll be going over Kotlin basics. So we'll see how a Kotlin program looks like as a basis for our Android session. So again, welcome everybody. Please sign into the form. Hello, where's everyone tuning in from? Chicago. Hello, everyone from UIC. Hopefully we have a few. Oh, hello. Get started. So today's schedule. This is what we'll be going over. First off, welcome. Hello. We'll say hello to our Google developer experts who are joining us to help teach us Android in Kotlin. We'll go over what a Kotlin program looks like, and then we'll take a break. So please fill out this form. Check in. We'll draw you into a raffle. We'll do the raffle during the break. We'll be sending out. We'll be emailing whoever wins. So make sure to put an email that that doesn't go to spam. So any school emails, please check your spam in case you win. We'll be announcing them during the break. And then once we come back, we'll be checking out a more complex Kotlin program, creating a birthday message in Kotlin. So taking into account what a function looks like and diving more into what a program in Kotlin looks like. Then if you have any questions, please post them in chat. We'll have people passing these questions on to our speakers. Yeah. And set up with a Google developer profile. So if you don't know what a Google developer profile is, Google developers site, they have tons of documentation, tons of resources for you to read. The Google developer profile is a way for you to show off what you have learned so far. If you'd like to create one, we highly suggest that you do. Please create one here. You can earn badges while we go through all the content that we'll be going over here today. You can show them off on your profile, just like achievements. Collect them all. It'll look awesome once you get a ton of them, and you can set the favorite ones that you can have up to highlight them. Here's the link. Please go to this link to create a developer profile. In the form raffle, we will be asking for that. So please do create a developer profile there. Now, I'd like to hand things off to our speakers. Please welcome Sierra and Inaki. The floor is yours, guys.
Hey, thank you so much, Angel, and University of Illinois Chicago for hosting us today. We're so excited to be here. My name is Sierra Obryan, and I am a Google developer expert for Android. I am joining from Cincinnati, Ohio. I have been doing Android development for about 7 years and have been working primarily in the consulting business, which means I get the opportunity to work on a lot of different projects for a lot of different industry and switch around projects all the time, which I think is a really cool. I am really excited to be here for this particular Android Jam session because I really love Kotlin and I really like teaching aspiring Android developers to kind of get started. What about you, Inaki?
Hi, hello everybody. Thank you very much for having me. I'm Inaki Villar. I'm originally from Spain. Came to the country 3 years ago, just before the pandemic, so just in time. And yeah, so I'm working in Android since 2010. Currently, I'm working as build engineer for Tinder, for the Android app. And yeah, very excited to be here. I remember 10 years ago or 11 years ago, I went to a new university in Madrid. There was a conference of a new thing that was called Android. And that changed my life, right? So I mean that I've been working in different companies, different countries. So looks like that the same thing happens again, right? But now with Kotlin, an awesome language. So very happy to be here.
I know, I was a little hesitant when Kotlin came out because I really love Java, but no going back now.
Exactly, right? I love Java still, right? I have to be honest.
It's always number one in my heart, but not mad.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we have switched over, and so let's dive in. Okay, so some prerequisites for our Android study jam today: basic computer literacy, basic math skills, computer, and optional headphones. I'm a big headphones gal. Internet connection, and then in some of the later Android study jams that we'll be doing, you'll also potentially need the Android device and a USB cable to connect those. Please do not worry at all. We are starting from the basics and making no real assumptions about what kind of background that you're bringing in. And again, if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop those in the chat, and Inaki and I will do our best to answer all of your pressing Android and Kotlin questions. So with that, just want to start off with getting to know our audience a little bit. So we would love to know a little bit about you and know why you were here. I'd also love to know what you're studying in college and any experience that you have with Android. So feel free to drop that in the chat and we'll be checking that out. What your goals are for being here and how you plan to achieve them. My goal for being here is definitely to teach you all Android and hopefully instill the love that I have for Android in you to inspire you to jump into this career as well. And planning to achieve that by running through this session and showing you the beauty of Android and Kotlin. So I'll give you all just a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds to answer some of those questions if you want to share any of that in the chat as well. Oh, been loving Android since the Nexus 4. I have a Nexus upstairs. It's one of my test devices.
Yeah, the Nexus was like, I have a Nexus Q. I don't know if you remember the ball, right? It was funny.
What else we got? I started making a mobile app for a course project and want to improve features to publish to the App Store. That is a really awesome goal, and hopefully we can get you there. Try is studying computer science, and goal is to learn about building Android applications. Renee is going to be learning Android and releasing an app in the next year.
That's cool.
Loving all of these goals. Android really customizable. So true. Always great to learn what you can do with it. Some folks from UIC. So Angel, there's your folks representing, learning how to make an Android app, studying CS. All right. Great answers, everyone. We are going to jump on into our content and learn a little bit about these study jams and then get started with our first. So with that, the objectives here, our learning objectives for this particular Android study jam session, or sessions, plural, is we're going to be building your first Android apps. We're going to learn how to set up Android Studio on your computer. We will also learn the basics of the Kotlin programming language and discover resources to continue to learn. So we'll be sharing some resources in the chat throughout this presentation. Android Studio is going to be an application that you need to install in your computer to interact with Android. It has really great features to make it a lot easier to build Android applications. And along the way, you are going to be exposed to the Kotlin programming language, which is really what we're going to focus on here. Sorry, I need to change a couple of settings. Oops. All right. Better. All right. And with that, okay, so the Android Basics course.
In the meantime, seems we're having technical issues. Inaki, do you have any suggestions for people who are looking to learn Kotlin?
Yeah, so actually, Android developer website has like different code labs. We are going to go through different code labs today, but it's always a good source of information. Today, we are in 2022, and we have different ways. It shouldn't be only with the official site. I think that there are like very good Twitchers and YouTubers talking about Android and Kotlin. I don't have the list now, but it's normal that we are not focusing only on one single source of truth when we want to learn. You have Stack Overflow, for instance, but if you ask me, my personal recommendation is to learn through GitHub, right? So GitHub, you have different projects. It's usually are open source. You can contribute, you can learn, you can ask questions. Maybe it's a little bit overwhelming now because you don't have the knowledge of the expertise, but it's a good practice to start taking the code of other people to learn and trying to understand better what's going on.
Definitely. Looking at open source projects is an excellent way to learn about how an app is structured, and just learning in general is a very great idea.
Okay.
Sierra, welcome back.
I'm so sorry.
No
I don't
problem.
know what happened. I am going to share my screen again. Try this all again. Can you tell me where I got cut off?
You were about to introduce us to the structure of our Android study gyms.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Was I on this slide or the next slide? I'm going to jump in here. Apologies, it's not an online event without some technical difficulties. Okay, so our course is made up of units, and units are composed of pathways. And so we'll be focused on the first session, or the first unit tonight, which is shown here. And it's going to be made up of 4 pathways. And we'll go through what those pathways are a little bit later. We'll be going through the first pathway in our first session tonight. You may be wondering, what is a pathway? And that is going to be an ordered sequence of activities to learn a specific skill. And an activity can be a video, a hands-on coding tutorial, also known as a code lab, which we'll be doing 2 of tonight, an article, or a quiz. You'll see at least 4 activities in this first pathway. And all of these activities are meant to work together to help you reach a specific learning objective at the end of each pathway. There's also going to be a quiz at the end of each pathway to check your understanding of what you learned. Here's kind of what a sample quiz will look like. And there's going to be no limits to the number of times you can retry to take the quiz. But if you get a question wrong, we really recommend that you try to make sure you understand the concept, even if that means that you're going to go back and look at the source material before answering the question again. These quizzes are really geared to make sure that you understand the concept and not just to test your knowledge like might happen in your school. So now that you're familiar with our learning platform and how the course is going to look, let's dive into some important concepts that you're going to be learning about. So number 1, in this course, you'll be learning how to code in Kotlin, and that's specifically what we'll be working on tonight. Kotlin is a programming language that you'll use to build Android apps. Kotlin is a modern and popular programming language known for helping developers to be more productive. Kotlin allows you to be more concise when writing your code, and you can write safer code that's less prone to errors. As a result of these many great features, Kotlin has quickly gained momentum in the industry. It is reportedly one of the fastest growing languages, programming language, according to GitHub. Pathway 1 is, again, going to be focused on learning the basics of Kotlin. If you want, you can read more about Android's Kotlin first approach online by going to developer.android.com/Kotlin/first. And I think they're going to post that link in the chat for you. To make it easier for you to learn during this pathway, we'll be writing our code inside a Kotlin playground, which you can access via your web browser. This site is going to look something like what you see now. You can write your code in this window, and there's going to be a green arrow button at the top to run it. The result of your code, otherwise known as your output, is going to show up at the bottom of the window where it says "Hello World" here. And we'll dive in and show some examples a little bit later. Next week, we'll start working on Pathway 2, which is where you're going to actually create your first app. You'll need to download and install Android Studio on your computer. This is the official tool that professional developers use for Android development, which I can confirm I use every day. This is where you'll be writing Kotlin code and building applications. In Android Studio, you can also use the Android emulator, which will emulate various Android devices on your computer. The emulator allows you to run your app, and it provides almost all the capabilities that a real Android device would have. If you do have a physical device and you want to use it, there's also instructions in Pathway 2 on how to set up your Android device for local Android development. We'll be covering this section next week, and we highly recommend that you install Android Studio prior to that Joining Next Week event, and we'll go over where to install it at the end of today's event. Then in Pathway 3, we're going to learn the basic concepts of customizing the user interface of a simple app. The user interface, also known as the UI of your application, includes what the app looks like and how the user is going to interact with it. So it might include things like text, like we see on the left, or images, like we see at the right, and also buttons like we see at the top of both of these screens, where users can interact with your application. And then in Pathway 4, you'll learn how to use your UI components to handle user interactions and make your app come alive. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So we are going to open the course. We want to open the course page with the link that's going to be provided. And so you're going to start here by going to g.co/android/basics. And again, that link will be provided in the chat for you, so you can quickly access it. Now I'm going to switch to my other screens. So if we go ahead and do that, we can go to g.co/android/basics. Oops. g.co. And so we'll land on the Android Basics in Kotlin. And since today we're going to be working through Unit 1. So we'll go ahead and click into Unit 1, Kotlin Basics. And we see all of the other units that we'll be doing in the future Android Study Jams. And so we can go ahead and click into this, and we see our couple of pathways. So today we're going to be working on Pathway 1, so we can go ahead and explore that pathway. Here we're going to see the first two sections are optional videos. And so the first one is going to be Welcome to the Android Basics in Kotlin. And the second one will be Building Your First Android App in Kotlin. And so you can go back and watch both of these videos, and it's going to show a lot of the same things that we've already talked about so far. And so now we're going to get started with building our first, writing our first program in Kotlin, which is one of the code labs or the hands-on coding sections. And so we're going to go ahead and take this code lab. Again, if you have any questions throughout this presentation, we can feel free to ask those in the chat, and we'll answer those as we go along. I do want to call out a recommendation just to organize your windows, is that I really recommend, I need to go back to number 1, putting them side by side so that you can see both the code lab and the Kotlin playground as we go throughout this. I'll try to make sure that I call out as we switch to the next section so that you can make sure that you're always aligned with what I'm doing, but you don't necessarily need to open the video at the same time, because you should be doing it along in your own browser window. And so with that, let's go ahead and talk about the first section of this code lab. So before we begin, there's a little bit of information just explaining to us what this code lab is going to be all about. A lot of this is things that we've already talked about a little bit during our introduction. And I know many of you are studying CS in college, and so some of this is also probably going to be things that you already know from your studies. But in this code lab, we're going to write our first program in Kotlin using an interactive editor that you can run from your browser. And that's going to be here on the right side of my screen, and we'll have a link in this code lab a little bit later. You can think of a program as a series of instructions for the system to perform some actions. For example, you could write a program that creates a birthday card. In that program, you could write an instruction to print a congratulation text or calculate someone's age based on their birth year. And so just like a human language that you can use to communicate with another person, you can use a programming language to communicate with an operating system on your computer. And lucky for all of us, programming languages are much less complex than the human language and quite logical. Again, Android apps are written in the Kotlin programming language, and that is a modern language used to help developers code efficiently. And so with this, let's go ahead and jump in. So prerequisites is just that you're using interactive websites on your web browser. And what we're going to learn during this code lab is how to create, change, understand, and run a minimal Kotlin program that displays a message. And what we're going to build during this code lab is a program in Kotlin programming language that displays a message when you run it. So let's go to the next section. So we're on section 1, and we'll go ahead and switch to section 2, which is going to be run your first program in Kotlin. And so in this task, you'll use an editor and a website to start programming in the Kotlin language right away. We're going to use an interactive code editor. And so in our browser, we're going to open developerandroid.com/training/Kotlin program playground. And that's going to be linked in step number 1 of use an interactive code editor. And so I already have this set up on the right side of my screen. Once you open this page, you should see a screen just like the one that I have, which says Kotlin Playground, has an area for some text, and we see that green play button in the upper right-hand corner. And when we click on that run, it's going to send our code to a server controlled by JetBrains. We also see this program in the code in the editor, and we see fun main print hello world. And so the first step is just going to be running that program code. So we can do this by clicking on the green triangle in the upper right corner. And when we do this, you should see at the bottom of your screen, hello world printed out below that main box. And so now we know what this particular program does. It prints or outputs a hello world message. What happens here is compilation. And compilation is a process that translates Kotlin program code into a form that the system can run. If compilation completes successfully, there are no errors in the program that would keep it from running. And if there are problems, they're going to appear in the pane in the bottom. And we'll see some errors in the next couple of sections. So let's go ahead and move on to the next section. So number 3 is going to say modifying your program. And so we're going to change the hello world code. And we're just going to make a simple change, and we're going to change it from hello world to happy birthday. So where your code currently says hello world, we'll replace it with happy birthday, ! We can go ahead and run our code again. And at the bottom, we should see happy birthday print out. So how does this work? This might seem like a lot of code to print something out, but just like when we talk in English, we have to explicitly spell out the different steps that the computer needs to take. And so if you've ever tried to learn a new language, you'll know the challenge to learn the grammar, the spelling, maybe a new alphabet or symbols, and the vocabulary. And so learning a new programming language has similar challenges, but again, a lot less complex and quite logical than, for example, English. So let's talk a little bit about the different parts of this program. So the first thing that we see in this particular program is going to be the word fun. And that's because Kotlin is really fun. But actually, Kotlin is going to be a word that is a special word in the Kotlin programming language. Fun is going to stand for function, and a function is a section of program that performs a specific task. Kotlin, like many other programming languages, has a lot of specific words with very specific meanings. And as you learn the Kotlin language, you'll learn about a lot of these reserved keywords or reserved words. So next, we see that we're going to talk about main. And so main is going to be the name of this particular function. And all of our functions are going to have names so that they can be distinguished from each other. This particular function is called main because it is the first or main function that is called when you run the program. Every Kotlin program needs a function named main. This is also something that you might see in other programming languages that you're learning at your university. For example, Java also has a main function, and Python also has a main function, and probably many others. Next, we'll learn that every function will always be followed by 2 parentheses. And inside parentheses, you can also add information for that function to use. This input to the function is called arguments, or args for short, and we'll learn more about that later. The next part of a Kotlin function is that we see these curly braces. So we have one at the top and one at the bottom, wrapping around our program. Inside those curly braces is where our function code is going to accomplish our task. And so these curly braces are surround those lines of code. And so in this particular example, we have one line of code in between those, the print line happy birthday that we just edited. And so what we can learn from this is that Println tells the system to print a line of text. And inside those parentheses, you put the text to be printed. And we notice that that text to be printed is surrounded by quotation marks. This tells the system that everything inside the quotation marks should be printed exactly as given. To actually print the text, the whole print line instruction is inside this main function. So here we are. We have our smallest little Kotlin program. And we now understand all the different parts of that. So now we're going to move on to the next section, which is going to be to extend your program. And so we're going to print a couple more lines with this program. And so the first thing that we're going to do is add 3 new print lines to that. So we'll add now print line and do Jancy. And then also print line for 25. And we could also do this by copying the first line and then just updating the messages inside. So now we want to take a moment and think about what we expect this code to do when it runs. We already learned what Println happy birthday is, and so we can use that knowledge to figure out what Println happy birthday, Println Jancy, and Println you are 25 is. And so we expect it to print out those 3 lines of text, one under each other. So we can go ahead and run this code. And so we see out the bottom, our output is happy birthday, Jancy, you are 25. Excellent work. So now we're going to talk a little bit about dealing with errors and what we can expect to happen when we see those. So in our program, we're going to remove the quotations around Jancy. And then when we try to run this, we get an error at the bottom. And so we talked about this a little bit earlier. When there's no errors in our code, it will just run and give us our output. But if there's an error in our code, that also shows up in this bottom pane. And so we see here, unresolved reference Jancy. And so this tells you what the system thinks the error is in the code. And even if we don't know what that error message might mean yet, it can help you figure out what's going wrong. In this case, we know we've already talked about print line instructions, print text. And we learned earlier that text needs to be between quotation marks. And if that quote is not texted, then like here, we get an error. And so we can go ahead, add those quotations back in and run our code again just to make sure it works. And now we have both run and changed our first Kotlin program. And so with that, we're going to move on to the next section. And so here we see our solution code, and what we have in our Kotlin playground should match this solution code because we followed through the code lab. And so we can move on to section 6, which is a summary of what we've done today. So first, we learned about Kotlin Playground, which is an interactive code editor on the web where you can practice writing Kotlin programs. We also learned that all Kotlin programs, like some other programming languages, need to have a main function, and we can use fun and that's going to look like fun main, 2 parentheses, and curly braces. We learned that println function, we can use the println function to print a line of text, and we can place the text that we want inside double quotation marks. For example, hello or happy birthday. And then we can repeat that println instruction to print multiple lines of text. And then finally, we learned that errors are marked red in our program, and there's an error message in the output pane to help you figure out what the error is and what might be causing it. And so section 7 is going to be learning more. And so that again has our link to our Kotlin playground that we're already using, and then also a vocabulary for Android basics in Kotlin. This link can be pretty overwhelming at first because there's a lot of vocabulary associated with Android and Kotlin, but it's a really good link to bookmark so that as you learn, you have a quick reference to figure out what things are talking about if you ever forget. And then section 8 is going to be practicing on your own. I definitely recommend going through these practice problems. And so this one is fairly simple. And so the kind of changes that we're going to make is we're going to change println to print and then run our program. And we can see what happens. So if we remove println here and run our program, we see that everything now ends up on one line. And so the hint here is that print just prints out all the text without adding that extra line at the end, where println adds that extra line break. And so we can fix this pretty easily by using the second hint, which is using \n to add a line break inside our text. And so they give us an example there, line \n break, which will add a line break to the changes to the code that you print out. So here we'll want to go ahead and add \n and \n, and we can run our program again. And we see that we're back out to the same, into the same message from the beginning. And so this matches one possible solution for how to add those line breaks back into our program. And so with that, we are done with our first code lab. And I think that it is time for a break and a raffle.
Oh, yes. So we'll take a 5-minute break. Please check in using the form link provided in chat. We will be running a raffle, and we'll announce the winners after our break. So take 5 minutes, grab a glass of water, stand up, stretch up, posture check. We'll see you back here in 5 minutes. All right. Hopefully everyone's back from their break. For everyone wondering what the prize is, it is a Google Developer Student Club's branded backpack. Looks pretty cool. See if I can share this because it looks awesome. Look. So prize winner, we will be reaching out to you in the coming days for your shipping information. So be on the lookout for that. We can't really show it here because it's an email, but congratulations to our raffle winner. Hopefully everyone is back. And let's get back to it. Learning Kotlin. Please welcome back our speaker, Sierra Inaki. Inaki will be talking through our next code lab. So please welcome Inaki.
Okay, sharing the screen. Okay, so I guess that you can see my screen, right?
We can.
Perfect. So, well, we are going to continue with the second code lab of the day. It's going to they're going to copy the link on the website, but by the end or in the chat is Kotlin training, Kotlin birthday, right? So we saw before with Yara the introduction on how we are working with the Kotlin playground, and it's one of the prerequisites that we have. So that's something that, as you can see, you can play. Actually, it's quite useful, right? And you don't have to deal with Android Studio if you want to do some tests, you want to play, get your hands dirty, whatever. So it's very useful. So before we saw the understanding that what is like the hello world, the strings, and how we can use the print function inside the Kotlin playground. So what we are going to learn in this code lab is how to print more complex text for your program, and additionally how to do basic math on Kotlin, how to create a function, and how to create loops. So at the end, the requirements are the same. So we need internet access and browser, Chrome, to play with the playground. So additionally, I want to mention something on the playground, that if you zoom on the bottom right part, you can see that there is some additional information about this Kotlin playground that is targeting the JVM platform, the Java Virtual Machine platform, and running on a specific version. That's something very cool from Kotlin, right? So sometimes you can think that Kotlin is only for Android, but Kotlin can be used for different goals, and not only in terms of architecture, because you can use like in web as well. So, and actually there is a trend of Kotlin multi-platform that's quite very interesting. That's why Kotlin is a very good bet. Okay, so the second step, we're going to start inside the function main. You need to replace the hello world with the happy birthday Robert world. That's something simple that we can do. And you can see directly the output. Let's go to the main. We're going to copy here, and we are going to see the output. At the end, we are repeating the same thing that we are doing before with Sierra. So at the end of the day, as she mentioned it, the println is a function that is expecting one string, right? So, and so far so good. You can try to run the basic program. Okay. You can try to be a little bit more complex and trying to do some fancy birthday cake in terms of, well, with a text visual representation and that. And well, if you see the code lab, well, at the end is trying to, well, play with the perspective, right, of the different operations. But the important thing here is that you need to understand the println is one way to throw output in your program, right? Sometimes you want to store the output in a file, in a database, in the network, whatever. But another type of output is another type of output is the text, right? And that's something that, well, you have quick feedback about what you are doing. So in this second section of the code lab, you can see that to understand the code, we can print something like this. And let's copy this and let's see one of the common problems that we have developers today, right? If I'm seeing this program and I see this, I don't know what's going on, right? Or maybe, well, if I run, so maybe I can have an idea, but honestly, so I don't know. So I don't know what's going on. So that's why in the code lab, they're introducing some helpful mechanism to trying to help yourself and your team members, and it's adding comments to the code. So that's something quite fundamental. And again, so it's not something that you need to do for your work. It's something that is going to help you, because maybe you're going to forget something, and next week you don't know what's going on with this code. So, and the way to put all comments in the Kotlin code is just to lashes like this. But I want to mention that this code is not going to be interpreted by the compiler, right? The compiler is not going to do anything with the comments, and it's not going to be included in your final binary, right? So that you are publishing to Google Play, for instance. And yeah, so at the end, we have this problem that we don't know what's going on here. And yeah, so in the code lab, you can put like, I don't know. So let's. And of course, if you run this program, you are not going to see the command, right? So the commands are for humans, right? So are not from the compiler. The compiler doesn't understand about the compilers, about the commands, but it's a very good practice to start using commands in your practices, in your code, in your open source projects, because it's going to help you to understand better what's going on. Okay, well, so at the end in the code lab, they are like trying to add additional information, like, I don't know, this print an empty line. That's useful information for some people, but sometimes we don't have to overload the code with a lot of comments, right? So, but again, so it's a very good practice that if you can start today, when you have like some complex logic or you don't understand something, try to put comments, because it's going to be helpful in the future for yourself and for your team members. Okay, let's go to the next section. That's the use of variables, right? So, and the code lab wants to store the robbers age in a variable, right? You know that the main topic of this code lab is like trying to print this cake with the candles, with the robber age and whatever. But here we are entering in something that's a fundamental of the Kotlin programming language. And that's something that in Java, for instance, we didn't have right before Kotlin, right? And that's something that it was not complex, but it's very important to understand what's going on. Okay, first of all, so how we can declare like this values or variables. So how you can declare a variable. The idea is like we want to print the age of Robert given an input, right? So one of the things to make a value is with the reserved keyword val, V-A-L, right? And with that, you can try to, well, so we can try to print the age of Robert in that case. And it's going to work, right? So far, so good. Additional, Kotlin allows to do some template replacement for strings. And this is totally valid too. Oh. Okay, you see that, well, the value has been replaced by the content of age, right? If we remove the brackets, we can see another way to play with the strings. So if you are manipulating strings, it's important to understand how you can concatenate, right? So I mean that if I try to do like the name and I put Robert, I can do something like this, right? So, and I have same string concatenating to different types, right? And yeah, as I was mentioning, so the bulk keyword, so it's used for, well, the name of the variable, right? Personally, that's something that we need to cover, right? Because here you have highlighted text saying that a variable declared using the bulk keyword can only be set once. You cannot change its value later in the program. You can declare variables mutable, that's the name, with the var keyword, which you will do in a later code lab. But, well, we have time, so don't worry. Imagine that we have like this, again, 8, right? And I'm wrong, and I want to modify this value, right? So, and this is something like, it's 8, it's not 5. when I run the program, so the Kotlin compiler is saying the val cannot be reassigned. I remember that at the beginning of Kotlin, we were using val for values or immutable values, and var for variables, right? That's something that nowadays we can say that val is values that they're not going to change, and var are variables that they are going to change. And you need to understand this topic is quite important because like in this case, we don't want to mutate the age. That's something that is going to be always 5, right, in the context of the program, right? And that's why we have these two different options, val and var. Okay, following the code lab, you're going to play with the different template replacing that we have seen before, and at the end, the idea is trying to do some operations, right? So we have like this value, but we can do operations too in Kotlin, right? So as mentioned, so how many days are 5 years? So you can run and you can print. Actually, like this, right? And you're going to see the content. On the same way, you can change the content, and you can say this. And we can see like how it's working, like the string replacement inside the println. Okay, so well, the whole idea of this section of the code lab is trying to make like this happy birthday Robert with the candles, the cake, and after that some different messages. So the operations of Kotlin, that's something that you are going to see later, right? But Kotlin is very clever, right? So with this instruction, with this command that we are saying here, Kotlin knows that 5 corresponds, or 8, sorry, is a int type. And we are going to enter here in a more complex topic. That's the type safe programming languages like Kotlin, right? But one difference that we have with Java that's very good for us, or at least with the Java version that we were using for Android, is like Kotlin is less verbose. So Kotlin is, as you can see, I want to declare an int variable, I have to do only this. And the Kotlin compiler is going to infer only knowing that we are doing this command saying that age is 5. Kotlin compiler is going to infer that age is a type int. And in Java before, it was very verbose, right? And you have to declare the public integer value, whatever, if it's not mutable, final. So it was like a lot of ceremony. Now with Kotlin it's easier, right? And what happened if you try to do it like this? And let's see what happened, right? I'm trying to do an operation of an int and an int and a string. And shouldn't work, right? Exactly, right? So it didn't work because we are doing an operation with an int and strings. So I recommend you, if you are interested in Kotlin, start trying to play, I don't know, breaking things, right? Trying to understand better. But from this section, the important things is like val for immutable or for values that they're not going to change, var for things that they're going to change. Kotlin allows to do math operations, like the typicals. And finally, that the Kotlin compiler understand the type that you want to use. Okay, well, so let's go to the next section, well, at the end. So that's the same thing that we were doing here. And okay, the next section is about to print we're going to start printing a banner. Again, this is like a little bit of playing, right, with the playground. You can copy, you can see how to trying to understand the things that we want to achieve here, right? We are putting like the name with a specific banner. But in the code lab, you can check the different options how to create a new function, right? At the moment, we are working only with one function, that the main, as Sierra mentioned, that so it's like typical in different programming languages, like in Java as well it is, right? But we are not limited to one function, because if not, wouldn't be fun, right? But at the end, so fun is like the keyword used to declare a new function. So another thing to love Kotlin, in Java you have like the methods, right? And it was very verbose as well to declare the things, right? If you want to declare another function, you only need to declare the simple function, and you can invoke the function from the main function too. You can see, so there is like a direct relation between the two functions. So the recap is like function is a section of a program that performs a specific task. The fun keyword makes some calls function. After the fun keyword follows the name of the function and optional inputs, arguments, right? So in your code for printing text, always when inside the curly braces. Yeah, that's something that maybe you are wondering, and you have like the typical question, can a function return a value? Yeah, of course, can return a value, right? And that's something that we will see in more advanced code labs. But the idea here is you have the fun, that's the keyword, you have the name of the function, here would be like the arguments, and finally you declare the type, right? Because a function can return a type. So again, the type is on the top, right? Okay. Well, let's follow the example, and let's do like this simple print border, right? And at the end of the day, the thing that we want is of the initial message that we have of the with happy birthday Jancy, we are going to print a specific border. Okay, following the naming functions. Yeah, so well, in the code lab, you are seeing like different naming functions or conventions. That's something that if you are new in programming language, maybe it's a little bit overwhelmed. But once you are working, or if you have like a couple of years of experience, you will see that at the end how we are naming variables, functions, classes, enums, all the different components follow a convention, right? So, and one of the convention, right, is like this lowercase for the first word and uppercase for the second, right? It was a camel case function. I think that depends on the project, depends on the exercise that you want to apply. But if you are working with more people, it's a good practice to set some kind of conventions to follow the same, right? Because I'm going to push this code to GitHub and I put the name here, right? So we are going to start arguing, or we are going to use static tools to detect these kind of problems. So that's something that is conventions. I think that applies to all the different programming languages and so on. Okay, following with that, so again, you can see here in the example, quite easy, right? So we're going to print the border at the end. We're going to extract this operation. And finally, we are going to to replace the name with that. And well, you can see we have like the same approach. Okay, I'm going to skip this part. At the end, it's going to do the same, right? But with a new statement that is called repeat, right? But we want to go for the next section to explain better about the functions, right? You can see here the repeat. It's only to repeat like the number of times that you indicate in the function, in the parameter, the character that you are writing. I think that that's something that you can play, right? Imagine that you want to, I don't know, to represent visually with characters some Pokemon or whatever. So you can try to deal, but it's going to be a little bit hard, right? Okay, something that we want to check additionally is here they encapsulate the title saying that create a cake with layers and candles. But I was checking the code lab, and something quite interesting, right, is how we are going to declare these things, right? Here in the code lab, they are saying that, well, this print cake candles is going to have one argument, right? That is the 8. And we are going to enter in this topic later. So as we mentioned before, so the functions are like basic for Kotlin. We have the name following a convention, and here they're like the arguments of the function, right? Following the example, we're going to copy the name of the function, and following this approach, right, I know that 8 is an int, so I can infer here that this is going to be my function, right? So, and that means that I can print the 8 here. And this is something where Kotlin wins a lot against Java, and why the Android community was in love with Kotlin 4 years ago. So functions or the arguments in Java, you end with very complex, sometimes patterns, design patterns, trying to cover different casuistics that you have with your functions, right? Imagine that they have, like in this case, two different arguments in the function, and sometimes layers is not going to be there, right? So how I can call this, or how I can create these two functions in Java? So maybe you can create two different methods, right? One with age and layers, and another only with layers, right? Kotlin goes one step forward and adds different functionalities to the functions. One is like the named arguments. That's something that could be or look like silly, but actually it's very useful, right? So you have like this function, and I want to call this function. So naturally, I can try to do like this, right? Let's clear this. That's something that works. But what's the problem? That sometimes the functions grow, and maybe you can have, I wouldn't say 20 arguments, because it's not a good practice to have a function with 20 arguments, but maybe you have 2 or you have 3, right? And you want to identify. And one way like Kotlin allows to identify which parameters we are sending or we are using is with the named arguments. That means that I can represent, or I can try to relate the arguments that I'm sending to the function in a way of layers too. Okay, let me display this. Because again, so in terms of readability, it's very clear, right? That here I'm printing K candles with an age of 5 and layers 12. So that's something from Kotlin that is called named arguments. But if I remove that, so it's quite, I don't know, I need to remember, or I need to dive in the code to see the current signature of the function, right? And well, sometimes, again, when you have 7 or 8 parameters, it's something that you cannot, well, you are going to play and you lose. So that's something very cool that of Kotlin. The same way as well, the functions allow to use default values, right? And that's something for more complex for future code labs. Okay, so at the end of the day, you can see, let's do the copy, and let's see what it's doing right here, right? So at the end, we have like the same argument for the age. We are trying to decorate a little bit with prints, and we are using this function to repeat the different age, right? Because it's going to print for each year a candle. So as you can see, not much complexity. Only the tricky part is how to, yeah, represent the candle, right, and the fire. That's why we are playing with this kind of tricks, right? But again, so try to draw some I don't know, so something that you can draw or you can do in, I don't know, creative, like, I'm not sure, right? So you can be trying to do like a small game of how many guesses you can print or whatever. So okay. Uh, Finally, well, in this section, it's going to add the bottom of the cake. It's trying to do with like add symbols, and you are going to just do some math operations because the logic of the layer of the cake bottom requires to have like two different spaces here, right? So as you can see here, we don't have the same number of elements. Okay, yeah, so let's continue to that. So the next section, we have like the code and it's the solution. So at the end of the day, I want to go through the different elements. We have the main function. We are declaring values, 8 and layers, 24. These values are not going to be mutable. Always they're going to be in the same way. We are using functions with arguments. The arguments can be named, and it's going to be helpful for you to understand better what's going on. And it's a good practice to use different commands in your code, because checking this code, for instance, I don't know what's going on with this line if I don't see the comment, right? I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's a mistake. Well, the same I can say for here, right? So I don't know what's going on. So put a comment. It's going to be helpful for you. And what's next? So, well, troubleshooting the summary. So use the dollar brackets for variables to use like in the strings, and it's going to help you create a variable using the val keyword and a name. So again, very important. This is something that we need to think. This value cannot be changed. In terms of the type theory that I was mentioning before, we have seen two different types: strings that going to represent strings, right, and int numbers that has like a range. We are not going to enter in these details, and more about the functions, how we can try to declare new arguments and use the repeat statement to repeat a set of instructions, right? So, well, honestly, so I think that's a good function to use to play, right? But it's not very useful, the repeat function in the daily work, right? And yeah, so learn more, right? So here, you were asking before about more about Kotlin. We have the Android Basic for Kotlin and Android Basics in terms of vocabulary and different documentation as well that you have in the Code Lab. So yeah, I think that I'm done. And if you have questions.
Yes, sorry. Any questions, please ask them in the chat. We'll get to them at the end during the Q&A if we didn't already answer them. But now that we've gone through the Code Lab, a big round of applause to Inaki and Sierra, who came to talk about this, to be speakers at our first session of Android Study Jams. We have 3 more, but for now, now that we've finished or gone through this first pathway, you can earn a badge. So those who made a Google developer profile, you are able to earn a badge to add to your profile. You can just do the quiz at the end, answer all of them correctly. You have unlimited submissions for this quiz. Just complete the quiz, you will earn a badge, and you can have that highlighted on your Google developer profile. Share what you learned. If you have anyone who is interested in learning more, our next session will be going into Android Studio. So before you guys go, please download Android Studio for the next session. And also, before we go, if you want to continue learning, you can go to some of these links. We'll have these slides posted somewhere, I'm sure. You can click through these links, but you can also just search this on Google. There's blogs from Android developers for you to get acquainted more and see any active development happening in the Android space. But otherwise, thank you for coming. If you have any questions, please post them. And before you go, please make sure to attend all 4 sessions, because those who attend all 4 and submit an application using what they learned, you will get a free Google voucher to use on the official Google merch store. So attend all 4 of our sessions, check in, and then at the end, we'll be asking people to submit an app of their own using what they learned in these sessions. So in the next session, we will be learning the basics of Android Studio, how to create an application. And then the last 2 sessions will be how to actually create the app and add your own content. Those who make their own app out of the sessions here, you will be given a free voucher to use at the official Google merchandise store. So please make sure to attend the next 3 sessions. I look forward to seeing you all there. Again, a big shout out to Inaki and Sierra who came to talk about Android. Hopefully you guys learned something new for Kotlin, even if you have a lot of programming experience or you already know the basics. Looking at some how Kotlin looks like from an already technical background, hopefully you learned something. Again, thank you, Inaki and Sierra. If you have any other questions, please ask them away. We'll be here to answer them. Thank you. Nice to see everyone. Thank you for coming. We'll be looking at chat for any questions. Yeah, we'll see you next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Next sessions, please look at your chapter. Your chapter should be posting the next event soon. Look out for announcements in your chapter's Discord or LinkedIn or however they are doing announcements. Yeah, definitely. Kotlin is very versatile. If you are curious to learn more, I was looking through the Kotlin documentation. There's like it works for other platforms too. I think I saw something that connects it with React, and like you can use it as a backend. It's pretty versatile. If you want to learn more and look at all that, just go to Kotlin Android documentation or just Kotlin documentation in general. But yes, hopefully you all learned something new. Hopefully this piqued your interest. Go out there and check out, see what you can see from documentation and stuff. We hope to see you at the next event. And any other questions, we'll be here for a bit to answer them. So please post them in chat. Link to the quiz. If you were following along, you can exit the code lab and access the quiz. Oh, seems we have a question. What is the difference between using curly braces and not using curly braces with printing the values in Kotlin? I think that relates to, I was looking at chat, that relates to scope, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So then if you have an object, you have to use the braces always, right? Because you have to access the properties of the values of the object with a dot, right? So my house dot whatever, right? But in terms of a single member, I don't think that there is like a difference.
Yeah.
We also gave an example in the chat of, on the YouTube chat, I realize I'm not accessing the LinkedIn chat, but of doing that math directly in that string. And so you can define 2 different integers, age1 and age2, and test out some different combinations of using brackets. So if you do $ curly brace age1 plus age2 and in brace, you'll see those summed together print out. If you do $age1 plus $age2, you'll see something different print out. And if you just did $age1 plus age2, then you'll see something else different print out. So we recommend you kind of try out some of those different combinations and get used to it and the different things that it can do as well.
Yep. Here's a question that just came in. Our chapter did an activity with Flutter and Android. How do these compare? If our speakers have any Flutter experience or know the difference between it.
So I can get started with an answer, and then Inaki, you can add your opinions on the end. But I personally just think that Flutter and native Android are going to be two different technologies, and a lot of the decision is one better than the other, but is more what problem are you trying to solve. So there are a lot of applications that are written in Flutter that look just like native Android applications, and you would really never know the difference. And so you really have to think about what are your requirements and what you need to do with that application and what your end goal is. So for folks that don't know, Flutter is a platform that you can write both an iOS app at the same time as an Android app and run that on both mobile platforms. The way that it kind of works is it just draws directly on your phone screen versus touching the operating system, which is kind of cool. And so it can actually run on anything that has a canvas. So it also has some built-in features for like desktop, just like Android. Something kind of cool happening in Android right now that I don't think that we'll get to in this particular study jam, but I recommend you checking out if you like it, is that Android is kind of switching to a declarative framework called Jetpack Compose. And that really brings Flutter and Android a lot closer. And so I have done a little bit of Flutter. And so knowing that little bit of Flutter made it a lot easier to transition to this new framework. So with Flutter and Android in the comparison, it's not really necessarily a comparison as much as it's try out both, think about the problem you're trying to solve, and pick which one works best for you.
Yeah, nothing to add to that. So just only that there is a new library, I think, that combines Flutter and Kotlin, and it's called Flutter. So yeah.
It's interesting. I haven't heard of that, but that's something else to look
I just
into.
learned something new too.
Here's another question that I think we should highlight. Why Kotlin instead of Java for Android development?
Well, I can take this one. I think that Kotlin is at the end, so it's more productive in terms of writing code, understanding, tooling, and the problem is not Java, right? So Java, actually, I think that Java 16, Java 17 versions are like Java is a modern language, but back in time we were tied with Java 6, Java 7. And there was like very old languages, right? And Kotlin brought all this modern technology paradigms, right? Not only about like writing fun or inferring types. So it's much more concepts like I saw in the comments, like the nullability, right? So it was more prepared for a modern language. And yeah, I think that if today you ask some Android developer that had experience with Java, still he's going to prefer Kotlin, right? It's more concise, it's quick, faster, and less verbose. I think that's something that always we were complaining. What do you think, Sierra?
Yeah, I think there were some really good comments, and I love seeing everyone interact and tell us what they liked about Kotlin. But I think that Kotlin also has a lot of really cool features that we didn't have time to talk about. I really like extension functions and those sorts of features when writing Android. But I do totally agree that moving from Java 8 to Kotlin is totally different than moving from Java 16, 17 to Kotlin. I don't always keep up with all the new Java features, but when I see them come out, I recognize them from things that we might be doing in Kotlin and these kinds of things. And so Java 8 to Kotlin was a much bigger change than what you might experience if you're learning one of the newer versions of Java.
Yeah.
Any other questions that we haven't gotten to, please post them in chat. We'll stay here for a bit to answer any questions that we haven't yet. Otherwise, thank you for coming. We hope to see you guys in the next session where we'll be going into Android Studio, creating your first project, and going a bit through what Android Studio looks like and how to navigate it.
Well,
Here's a good question. This UIC student is currently attending a course where they're doing all of their Android stuff in Java. What should they look after their class is over? Should they focus on Kotlin?
So the way that I learned Kotlin and what I recommend for a lot of people, especially if you're learning in Java currently, is just rewrite one of the applications that you learned in Java and just switch it over to Kotlin, because you already kind of know what it should do and you kind of know where you should end up. And so it's a really good way to really get your hands dirty and see that comparison of writing an app in Java and then writing it in Kotlin. And so you learn a lot about those benefits and the conciseness and how much nicer it looks. But I do recommend that in 2022, forget the year, we are a Kotlin first platform. And so most Android developers, most job postings are going to be looking for some kind of experience with Kotlin to move forward. There are definitely a lot of applications that still have Java in them. And so having both is a really, really good mixture of skill sets to get your first Android job if that's what you're looking for.
yeah. And well, at the end of the day, so the fundamentals of Android more or less will be the same, right? An activity, it's an activity. Fragment is a fragment. Of course, we have Compose, right? That's only for Kotlin, but this is another topic. But in terms of the basic components of the framework of Android, it will be the same. What is a service? What is an intent? What is an activity? Only change how you are writing the code.
Yeah, and as Sierra said, going forward, the Google Android team is putting most of its focus into Kotlin. So a lot of the new tools, just like Inaki just said, Jetpack Compose, which is, if I remember correctly, a modern way of creating the Android UI. So should you focus on Kotlin? I'd say so. Any other questions that we didn't get to and you would like answered, please post them in chat. We'll stay for a bit to answer any of your questions. Otherwise, again, thank you for coming. We'll see you in the next session, next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central. I think we'll wrap it up at 7:30. Yeah, of course. Thank you for stopping by.
Well,
can apps be written in Python or C++?
yeah. Think you can, but I think that you don't want, right? I think that, well, I don't know. Well, if Sarah, have you had experience with native?
No, and
No.
I would like to avoid it.
Like a nightmare, right? So I think that we're talking about JVM languages and we feel so comfortable, but going through the C++, right, is another topic, right? You can Android allows the platform, so you can write in C++, but I think it's going to be a little bit hard, right? And Python, not sure. I saw something in Clojure, but not in Python. I guess that you can do whatever you want, right? But
yeah, if you look hard enough, I'm sure the community somewhere has done something to accommodate that. But as Sierra said, Android's moving towards Kotlin first, so we highly suggest you learn Kotlin. Maybe stick with the series, see what we have to show. And also, if you just look through the Android docs, there's a lot of resources there, like continuing your education with Kotlin. Yeah, we'll take 3 more minutes to take any questions. Any questions we didn't answer, please post them in chat. We'll answer them. If not, thank you for coming. We'll see you next Wednesday. Here's one. What's a good first job in Android after college? Do most go into a company, or can a more independent route be a good choice? It seems like both of you are more independent. If you want to talk about your Android experience, or how you got started.
So my first job was at a product company, and I think a lot of this question is going to be a somewhat personal choice, and where your skill set and passion lies and what you can do for yourself. I will say that I am not independent. I do work in consulting, but I work full time for a consulting firm as an employee. So I do have that safety net of a company that supports me and pays me. I'm not going out and getting those jobs all by myself. For me, working at a product company gave me a lot of really good benefits. Number one, I happened to be working on a greenfield app. So it was a very new application. And so it had a very defined architecture and didn't have a lot of tech debt because it hadn't actually been launched yet. So they were writing it from scratch. And so they had updated libraries, a defined pattern. We had a really good tech lead who could kind of guide me in those best practices in the industry. And so that was really important to me in finding my feet in the industry. So there are a lot of good samples out on GitHub and open source projects, and Google again puts out a lot of good samples, like some of the things that we're doing today to get started. When I was getting started, I did not know about that. I joined tech from a non-traditional background, so I did not have a huge background in tech when I was joining. And so having a team and being surrounded by other Android developers really gave me that push, that momentum to get started in the field versus going out and finding all these on my own. So Inaki shared a little bit about his journey into getting into Android, but mine was just kind of dropped on an Android team when I got my first job. And here I am 7 years later and really, really like it. So I don't know if you want to share more about your journey, Inaki.
Well, I was working as software engineer, but for boring technologies like Oracle, SAP, right? All this corporative world. And it was like the beginning of 100, and I just moved to a big bank to work for an app, right? I don't know why. Well, I think that I'm neither independent. I always work for big companies. Yeah, but I think that, as Sierra mentioned, it's up to you, right? But I think that the explanation about if you can choose the team, so be surrounded like very good leaders and developers is going to be a very good investment for you for the future, right? So one thing that always we try to think is, no, well, maybe I can join Tinder, Google, whatever, and that's it, right? This is just the beginning, right? So, and when you are trying to join a company and you have a very good team, so this investment is going to be back, like maybe returning like 4 or 5 years, right? Because you are going to learn and display. And then in terms of big company startup, it's up to you totally, right? So that's one thing that I'm missing. I have been always working for big companies, and still I have now 40 years old, that they have like the feeling to try a startup, right? So you have pros and cons with the big companies, as you mentioned it, but in a startup you have to do everything by yourself, right? And well, maybe you're playing the lottery, right? And you can get millionaire, right, with the idea, but that's something up to you totally, right? So it's personal.
My first Android job was also at a big bank.
Exactly, right? So yeah, but well, now working out for big companies is fun too, right? So, I mean, that's not like maybe 20 or 15 years ago, right? Or thinking in this Java developers, very corporative, right? Some microsystems. No. Now it's everything. It's very funny, right? So,
Yeah, hopefully that was good insight. I know it was for me. That was interesting to hear. I think that's all the questions we'll take for now. For everyone still here, thank you so much for coming. We will see you next Wednesday. Please have Android Studio installed for the next session, where we'll go into how to use it, how to navigate the UI a bit, what your first project would look like. So we hope to see you there at 6 p.m. Central next Wednesday. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Hashcode is back. Hashcode is a team-based competition with 2 single problem rounds. To compete, you'll form a team of 2 to 4 people and work together to solve an optimization problem. You won't want to miss the excitement of Hashcode, which sees nearly 100,000 programmers competing simultaneously around the world. Join a global community of more than 400,000 developers. Approach and solve problems in creative ways, grow your programming skills, and most importantly, have fun. Register for Hashcode today.
Google Developer Student Clubs train hundreds of thousands of university student developers globally while having fun getting to know other students at their school. Google selects students with strong leadership skills from across the globe once a year to start a club on their campus. These leads believe knowledge is power and that technology can do extraordinary things for the world. They take on the responsibility to help students learn and empower each other to solve real problems around them. Students can participate in the annual Solution Challenge by Google developers to solve for one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Join us in building a global community for students in technology.